Hi, my name's Harry Steinmetz. I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I've been practicing for about 25 years.
My name's Ned Jursek. I'm a criminal defense lawyer, and I've been practicing for about 20.
And here we have two fat, middle-aged white guys talking about what's it like to be black and arrested.
And the reality is race matters. And the reality is in confrontations, interactions, communications with law enforcement, it can be all about race.
Absolutely. And it's not just about being black. It's about any kind of brown skin, any kind of skin color, Native American,
Latino,
any of that. You just get treated differently in the system. It's a fact of life. And you look at the statistics that are out there, and given the proportions of the population, overwhelmingly, young men, in particular of color, get arrested at a much higher rate.
And in our practice, in representing people charged with crimes, overwhelmingly, that's what we end up seeing, and that's what we end up dealing with, that reality. And when I have a black client say, this was driving while black, I believe him. And I see it happen. I see people being treated differently. The police will swear up and down it doesn't happen. Judges and prosecutors will swear up and down that this doesn't happen. It happens every day. And there are different ways, I think, of dealing with that in the context of a case.
Mm-hmm. For example, I had a case a couple of years ago. Cops were breaking up a party. It was a high school party. And, everybody was leaving. Everybody was mouthing off at the cop. Guess who one of the cops ran after and tackled? Young African-American man. Really upstanding guy. He was going to college, just graduated from high school the year before, and there's no reason to think he was causing a problem. He's walking away from the party, and yet he's the guy that got tackled. His friends got tackled, and all of a sudden we've got assault in the third degree of a cop, and those are the charges he was facing.
And, there's some officers, certainly because we practice a lot, and we do represent a lot of folks charged with crimes, particularly in South King County and in Pierce County. There are certain police officers in certain departments that are notorious for how they handle dealing with African Americans or Latino individuals, the kinds of tricks they use to find probable cause, to pull them over, to search vehicles. And we certainly know right down to the kind of nitty-gritty of which officers are notorious for bending or breaking these rules that employ racial profiling and then have a history of treating people of color differently than others. And it goes into how we analyze our cases and how we scrutinize probable cause. It's not an issue we try to sweep under the rug. It's something that we try to address directly and aren't afraid to talk to cops, prosecutors, or judges when it's happening.
Now, a couple of pointers, just if you are a young man or a young woman of color and you're dealing with the cops, the best thing you can do for yourself in that moment is don't resist. If they feel they have probable cause, they're going to go ahead and arrest you. Be compliant. Don't go limp. Don't mouth off. Don't try to tell them their job. We'll deal with it later. That's the best thing that you can do, and that prevents you from getting hurt by the police officers, because we don't want to see anybody get hurt.
In every case I've had where my clients picked a fight with the officer, they've lost. I mean, that's how the system is geared. Now, it's easy for me as a middle-aged white guy to tell you to be calm and tell you to keep your cool, and we understand there's a very different reality. But that reality is also, if it's a fight you pick, you're going to lose. And it's just going to give them more ammunition in court to try to charge you with assaulting an officer or just try to portray you in some negative light in front of a jury, the reality which is probably going to be mostly white folk. Even in a place like Pierce County, people that answer jury summonses have been proven over and over again to be overwhelmingly white. And it's a frustrating reality to deal with. But the way, as a person of color, you might interact with an officer, particularly a white one, I wouldn't put it past a prosecutor trying to make you look bad in front of a jury because you were somehow, quote, disrespectful to law enforcement, even though we understand the reality is the other way around.
Okay.
So are there areas of Puget Sound, you mentioned that there are some cities that are more prone than others, and I mean, without getting into naming names of police officers, what where should people be more aware, I guess?
Lakewood, Tukwila
Lakewood,
immediately
Tukwila.
come to mind.
I agree with that.
For me. Even a Seattle Police Department.
Well, so Seattle Police.
And they're under a federal consent decree for how they've treated people of color. You'd think Seattle would be all liberal and progressive and touchy-feely. The police department isn't. The police department, in many ways, is still older school. You have a lot of more senior white officers. And I've had some of the most egregious treatment of people of color, especially mentally ill people, at the hands of the Seattle Police Department.
The other thing where you're going to see some problems is, for example, North Tacoma, overwhelmingly white neighborhood. Any wealthier, overwhelmingly white neighborhood, being African American is going to cause some suspicion. They're just going to put their eye on you because they don't know why you're doing there. There's an old story about Miles Davis, the famous trumpeter. When he bought a Ferrari, he called the Malibu Police Department to tell them, this is Miles Davis and I bought this Ferrari, just so you know. Because that's what happens.
Yeah, driving while black is real.
Yes, it is.
And you would think in this day and age it wouldn't be, but in an awful lot of communities it is.